Hello and welcome to another um, episode in the series of Lymph Uniting the World. And today I interview another lymphedema advocate that has made her mark around the world. And it's my absolute pleasure to introduce you to the wonderful Gaynor Leech, founder of LWO Community. Good morning, Gaynor.
Hi, Matt.
It's absolute pleasure. I mean, we've spoken many, many times, but this is the first time I think we've done a recorded interview of this kind. So I'm
That's
very
correct.
excited about that. So one thing we've got in common, Gaynor, is we're two people with lymphedema who are trying to or making a difference in the world to help others to live better with lymphedema, which is a lifelong condition, as we know. Please tell us about your initial diagnosis of lymphedema.
Well, in 2010, I went for a routine mammogram and then went off on holiday, as one does, come back, and I got a recall. Very scary in some ways, and yet in others it wasn't, for the simple reason I'd had breast lumps before. So I thought, oh, come on, we'll just go, and we did. But unfortunately, this day we were there at the hospital most of the day, and it turned out that I hadn't got a lump, it was in the tissue. So this is something that all ladies should do is go for their mammograms because mine would not have been found. My breast cancer would not have been found without the mammogram. Luckily, we got it very, very early. I had breast conserving surgery. I didn't touch the ground for about a month, as you can imagine, because everything moved very fast. My prognosis, as I said, was good, and then it was followed up with 15 days of radiotherapy. The thing about radiotherapy is they don't tell you what side effects you might have.
Hmm.
And to all intents and purposes, I'd sailed through mine. I didn't have the skin conditions, the burning that a lot of friends did. But it was very sore and it was red, beetroot red. So on my first consultation in May 2011, I asked the oncologist, what do you think about this? Why is this red? Why is it as hard as it is? And she turned round and said, I'm sorry, my dear, you've got lymphedema. And she was white. I mean, she was literally. And of course, the story goes, I said, lymph what? And she says, lymphedema. And I said, lymph what? And we kept on repeating this. And then she followed it up and said, without explaining, we need to get you into the hospice for urgent treatment.
Oh my
And you
goodness.
can imagine, and of course, like many people at that time, I didn't know that hospices had all these other services. And that's where our lymphedema clinic is.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that was the story, mentally very scary. But once I got to the clinic, they absolutely were amazing. And I had 8 years because mine was the worst case they'd ever seen. If we made a mistake at all, was that we didn't photograph it at the time so that we could have used it to show people how bad it was. And so initially they had treatment a couple of times a week, that then eventually went to a couple of times a month. And then, as you know, it gets pushed out. But I had treatment, wonderful treatment at my local hospice for 8 years.
And that's another thing we have in common. 2011 was when I was
Yeah,
diagnosed as well with my lymphedema, and um, my clinic was also in the local hospice, which sadly it's not anymore. And as soon as you hear the word hospice, you think, oh my goodness, it's the end. You know,
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
scary stuff, isn't it? But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Prognosis was good. So why are they sending me to the hospice?
Exactly. So 2011, you had 8 months of great treatment. Um,
8 years.
sorry, 8 years of fabulous treatment. Um, you mentioned in your earlier comment, lymph what edema. Tell me, was that what inspired you to create lymph what
Yeah.
edema?
So after my diagnosis, as you know, I walked away with a list of things that I couldn't do. And we now know a lot of this list is myth. And you and I have been working on something that will put that to bed, hopefully. So initially, I felt doomed. I was in a bad place mentally. Um, but I researched for 2 years until I thought I understood what lymphedema was. And in hindsight, I didn't even touch the surface. But after 2 years, I decided I'd collected enough material to start a website and a Facebook page. Now, bearing in mind, at this time, I had no real social media skills, no direction in, where I was going, how it was going to work out. So I typed lymphedema into a domain name, and
Mm.
strangely enough, it hyphenated it to lymph what dema. And at that stage, I mean, what else could I use?
It's what many of us still wonder, what it is, especially when you're diagnosed. It's not a popular condition, or some call it disease, is it? You've heard of the big
Mhm,
the big names, but lymphedema is still a mystery to many when they're first diagnosed. So you created this, I suppose, this website, this community,
mhm.
and how did it evolve from there? You.
Well, I mean, in September, this month, mid this month, we will be 10. I never imagined that we would still be here 10 years on. I had no idea that it would evolve. And although I've put a lot of work into it, we do evolve. It just keeps evolving, which is absolutely amazing. Um, Eventually, I started a support group. And when I started the support group from there, 37 people joined in the first month. I mean, what that was the interesting thing about that is I did not know because I was not told I had secondary lymphedema.
Mhm, mhm.
And then a lady who joined us, who it's gone through generations of her family, suddenly said, Gaynor, I have primary lymphedema. So it was back to the drawing board. It was back to learning about all that thing. Um, and initially, I received a lot of flack from healthcare professionals in the sense that they didn't think I should be putting these sort of things online. That sort of information is private, it's not secure, it should not be online. And then COVID struck, and we were way out in front, and people scrambled to get online because that is the way a lot of us now have to communicate.
Which is what we're
And
doing
this,
now. Absolutely.
yeah.
And the access to the medical professionals, sadly, was non-existent for, crikey, a good year or
Mm,
so, wasn't it? And some clinics struggled to reopen, as we know.
mm.
And even
And
seeing your GP.
if somebody told me 10 years ago that I'd be working as a volunteer, because it is voluntary, at the level that I am now working at, I'd have laughed at them. I really, because I couldn't. And eventually we started turning people around, and it was about, then it became very much about getting the patient voice. But importantly to me, it was all about community engagement. I felt that if we couldn't engage the community, patients and healthcare professions alike, we were not going to get anywhere. We were going to be the same as it's been for years.
And how did you do that, Gaynor?
Just promoting through this support group, getting our words out. I started writing. I've always had reasonably good English from a writing point of view. It's the only thing I probably did well in schooling, because I was of that generation that women's education still wasn't that important, especially in a small town like I came from. But yeah, it was all about promotion. Just keep pushing. pushing all the time. And then I started to do designs and videos and all sorts of things and kept writing. And suddenly people started taking notice.
They certainly did.
Simple as that. Yeah.
and and
You
it's
know,
gone from what 37 in the first batch. Tell us how many members or followers you have at the moment, Gaynor.
4,500 estimated across the globe.
Wow. I mean, that's
And
incredible.
what, working with all areas, it's just amazing.
So the website's free to visit, obviously, and you mentioned the
Yeah.
support group, which is what on an online support group, Facebook, something of that nature.
Yeah, it's an online support group. It's a private support group. Um, you can join, and I'm sure you'll put the links up. I'll let you have the links if you haven't got them. And you answer two security questions, and then we enroll you in the support group. It's all free. But the important thing is, you're not just talking to people like me, you are talking to people that live with lymphedema, primary lymphedema, lymphatic malformations, secondary lymphedema, and in some cases now edema, because we now know that while not all edema is lymphedema, it's all a malfunction of the lymphatic system.
And support is incredibly important. We know that.
Mm,
Um, and we've been doing some work together, which I'll come on to a bit later on to um, move back away from virtual to
mm,
face-to-face support. But having
yeah.
also having that potential to be anonymous online as well and put a sort of an avatar or anonymous name on there. Um,
Absolutely.
you can enter
Initially, we
anybody's
did
forum.
say that everybody got to have a photograph, and then we had some ladies saying, "Really, I've been in a perhaps an abusive relationship or whatever, and don't want to do that, so I'll have to leave." And then so we said, "No, if you can use an avatar, please do." I think we run a pretty tight group, and we take everybody very seriously. The beauty of an online support group is that we operate 24/7, 365 days a year. And even when I'm not around, somebody else will pick up.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's very beneficial. So just give us the address, Gaynor, which I will post obviously in the notes section, but if you've got it there, that would be great.
Yeah, it's www.facebook.com/groups in capital letters LWO and then support group.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, as I say, I'll put that up later on. So look, you said 10 years, which is a huge achievement. What have you got planned to celebrate? What's up your sleeve that you can share with us?
Well, at the moment, I'm busy writing and busy doing videos and getting all sorts of things that will be launched on the week of the 20th of this month. We're trying to organise a coffee morning or a coffee afternoon, but at the moment, I'm struggling with that with time and everything else. But it will go ahead if it's not now in September, because we have conference first week in October. It may be mid-October, but we will do something.
Okay. So for those watching in years to come, just to give you a shout out, the date is currently September 2023. So the anniversary is on the 20th of September, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, people watching this in 10 years' time, Gaynor, how funny would that be? Looking back, what
I
yeah,
did say when I
celebrating the
started
20th
I wouldn't
anniversary.
be here in 10 years.
Oh, nonsense. We'll be doing this for as long
Yeah.
as we've got a pulse, I think, you and I. So listen, the LWO platform has enabled you to get involved with many other organizations. And you mentioned earlier about the medical professional side of things, which we'll come on to. But there's a European patient group, a patient advocacy group called EPAG, right? Um,
Yeah.
so you're involved with that. Tell us a bit more about that and how it benefits people, in Europe with lymphedema.
Yeah, that came as a complete surprise. I was invited to join, and LSA and our friends Karen Frey is also a member. We can only be patient representatives. The actual EPAGs are those that have primary lymphedema, and it's primary lymphedema. So we because we don't have that, we can't actually become an EPAG, but we can still join the group. We can still add a contribution, which we do.
Mm.
This group is a dedicated, hardworking group of volunteers across Europe. And we started, first of all, by launching a manifesto of a call to action and all the things that we would like to see in our community. And the first one we did was translated into about 9 languages. The latest one we did this year was translated into 24 patient associations across Europe with 12 languages.
Fantastic, fantastic.
And we put it out every year. We also managed to get to speak to the Swedish health uh, minister this year, and that was presented, and we're hoping that was going before the Swedish Parliament. In addition to that, we've talked many times about compression. And an idea that we started actually on LWO was picked up by them and then expanded beyond our wildest dreams. And this year, they've launched a website, Putting Compression Under Pressure.
Very good.
And the lovely Elaine from the Netherlands presented it at the ILF conference. And that is also now online. And again, I'll send you the links.
Wonderful, wonderful. So this is to obviously benefit people with lymphedema across Europe. So we're singing off the same hymn sheet essentially, so that we're a unison, a united voice, if you like, across Europe. Is that
Yeah.
right?
And we can usually find somewhere, if somebody asks, oh, I'm in, Paris, or I'm in Norway or whatever, we can tell them where the centres of excellence are. And as you know, we've got 2 centres of excellence in this country, one at Derby and one at St. George's in London.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic. Well, what an honor to be involved. And, it doesn't stop there for you, Gaynor, does it? And, we both volunteer as patient representatives on the conference board of both the British Lymphology Society, the BLS, and the International Lymphedema Framework, or the ILF as they're called, which is a huge honour for both of us and another opportunity for you and I to work together.
Unbelievable honour, yeah.
Yeah, it's keeping us very busy, isn't it, between us?
It
So tell me,
certainly is.
why is it important that these large professional organisations have representation from people like us living with lymphedema?
Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you do what we do or you're a patient, you become the expert. You are living with lymphedema, and with the best will in the world, it's living with lymphedema that is able to tell somebody, no, this, what you've put in this text is wrong. That's not the way it works. So it's really very important that we work, and thankfully BLS and ILF both picked us to help get this word across, because they have all these people that are all these healthcare professionals who do a wonderful job, but some of them, or the majority of them, don't live with it.
And of
It's
course,
as simple as that.
in addition to you and I, they've had the help from the LSN, the Lymphedema Support Network,
Yeah,
for many, many, many years. And of course, their
that's
membership
correct.
is vast. So it's a pleasure for us all to be collaborating and
Yeah.
working together for the greater.
Well, LSN are coming on board this year, aren't they, for the BLS ones? So chuffed about that.
Yeah, yeah, it's important that we all work together because we've got I suppose the I don't like this word, the patient, We've got the
Mm,
person living with lymphoedema's health and well-being in mind at the center of
mm,
what we all do. We wouldn't be doing this otherwise, would we?
no,
Um,
I don't like the word patient neither. And on my group, as you know, everybody's a member.
mm,
Um, Patient, yes, if you're in a hospital setting, clinic setting,
yeah,
surgery setting, whatever.
yeah,
But out there, you're an individual.
yeah,
You're a person in your own right. So yeah, I agree.
yeah.
Don't like the word
Uh,
patient.
you have to be patient with lymphedema, but that's
Yes.
the other thing to consider. So it's not the first project that we've worked on, Gaynor, since I launched 2 years ago now, Lymphedema United, and
Hmm.
already in such a short period of time we've worked on a few projects. So I'd just like to give you a quick run through, a quick reminder for everybody out there if they're interested in finding out more about the work we've collaborated on, and more about Gaynor's work, then now listen up to this. Um, so the book sitting in that corner, sorry, is Let's
Yeah.
How to Live Better with Lymphedema. And Gaynor has a chapter that she's written for me in there, which talks beautifully about the struggles of mental well-being with lymphedema and the importance of support groups and sharing and not bottling it up. Did you want to sort of touch on anything to do with that, Gaynor? Because it was an absolute honor to have you involved with the book, and it was a really important subject that you covered.
No, I mean, I'm speaking. I mean, I realize not everybody can do what you and I do, but I think what the book does, what the work we do is saying to people, yeah, you have a voice. This is important. You have a voice. And we are now, to me, not just the patient voice and support is important, it's the community engagement. You know, I would never have imagined 10 years ago anybody would even listen to me. I would never have imagined that I would be working with several people within our community at a level that I could never have even dreamed of.
Well, that's down to you, Gaynor. You've worked hard to put yourself into that position to be, one of the key people within the sector. So congratulations to you. And it's,
Thank
along
you.
with the LSN, you've been very inspiring to me to create this, to hopefully get more chaps talking as well. Because we don't tend to raise our head above the parapet, us fellas.
No,
So between us, we're doing our bit, put it that way. And of course,
yeah,
you've shared your story with us on the website, Lymphedema United
yeah,
website, or Meet the Members. So for more about your journey, you can read up free of charge. Just sign up onto the website and read Gaynor's story. Um, you and I have presented at 5 BLS workshops at the conference last year. My goodness, that was a heavy day, wasn't
exhausting,
it? But
fun,
again, collaborating with the
fun.
BLS to get the patient voice or represent the patient voice as best we could. We're
Yes.
through our own experiences and listening to your members and my members, we've got an idea what a lot of people go through, not just us. So it was
Mhm.
a pleasure to share that information with lymphedema therapists and medical professionals in the audience in 5
Exactly.
workshops. And what do you think? There must have been around 25 to 35 people per workshop. So
Yeah, I think one of them they had 50 in, didn't they? But
yeah,
yeah, we did these five workshops, which by the end of the day, I certainly was wilting. And I think I almost missed dinner that night because I went back to my room and fell asleep.
sleep.
But a little bit more organized this year in that we're only doing two.
Yes, yes, we're there representing the voice of lymphedema from people living with the condition. That's October 2023, and again, a real pleasure to do that. Um, Another initiative, which is quite a new one, which we've been talking about for a while, and we touched on it earlier about the virtual world of lymphedema. And
Mhm.
sadly, because of COVID, a number of the face-to-face regular meetup support groups seem to be in decline. I know of a few that haven't reopened, um,
Exactly.
for various reasons.
Mm.
So you and I and a couple of the other guys from support groups online, Tom and Craig, got together and decided, wouldn't it be a good idea to do local meetups? So not official support groups, but just
Mhm.
for us to plonk ourselves in a hotel lounge area and have a cup of coffee or tea with local people living with lymphedema. And it took some months to prepare and launch, but I think I've done about 5 now. I think you did one in the
Mm.
Midlands, didn't you? Um,
Yeah, we did one in Nuneaton. Oh gosh, April, May probably.
and
And we're hoping to do, I think what they decided in the area that I was in was probably quarterly.
mhm, yeah,
That's what they felt. But a lot of people are also retired, but they're also these days very busy.
I know. Yeah, yeah. It's, we tried to do a midweek one and a weekend one to cater for
Mm,
those who work and those who don't,
mm,
and we had some good turnouts. The challenge, Gaynor, since doing them in the southeast in Kent, Sussex, East Sussex, and West Sussex, I'm getting messages from Belfast, from Liverpool, from all over Devon and Cornwall, all over the country. Say, when are you coming to? And I live in the southeast corner of England, so to get to these places isn't always possible. So we've put a shout out in our newsletter. Uh, I think it was the July newsletter, basically saying if there anybody out there that would like to host a local meetup, is get in contact with us, and we can have a conversation online and tell them all about it and how it works, and promote it online between us through our platforms to try and get as many people attending. And from there, if they choose to meet up quarterly, 6 monthly, or monthly, or just if they're having a bad day, pick up the phone and say, can you meet for coffee? It's having that local
yeah.
person in the same town or, 15 minutes drive away
Mm,
that acts as a local support network. So I think it has got mileage. We it's just you and I really at the moment doing it. I keep nagging Tom and Craig,
mm.
but it's something that I don't know whether you agree is needed across the country.
Yeah. Um, I think some areas more than others, and I think it depends on what sort of medical support they're getting as well. But yes, especially I think people that get left behind are the people that have mobility problems.
Yes,
And this is why the local meetups are important. And we've still got a generation, maybe two, but mostly one generation, who have no access to the internet. And I know I put flyers out in all the local doctors' surgeries, libraries, and unfortunately, several people came back to me after we'd met and said, I've seen your flyer. When's the next one?
it's something that I've got a couple of projects I'm working on at the moment, and once they're out the way, I intend to ramp this up again. And if it means me travelling up to Essex, Hertfordshire, Bedfordshire, there is demand, but I do need help. So if anyone's watching this who thinks, do you know what, I could host one, and let me define host. It's a local restaurant or a local hotel lounge area, typically with ground floor toilets and free car park and wheelchair ramps, etc. So easy access, where they don't mind you sitting in their lounge area. Some will provide you tea and coffee flasks for very, very reasonable prices because they know it's for people with lymphedema. And it's just an opportunity for an hour or two just to get together and have a chat. So host is literally a word for just to organize it, and we will help promote it around the country and get as many bums on seats as we possibly can. So that's kind of a little personal objective for me for the coming year or so ahead. Gaynor is to bring this to a more national network, but we shall see.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. So thank you for your help with that. And of course, you and your fabulous husband David came to our charity golf day in June at the Belfry and helped us to
Yep.
raise a staggering amount of money, 6,070 quid for the Lymphedema Research Fund. And are you going to come along next year to that?
All being well, largely depends on David's hip and whether he can get this operation or not. But yeah, I mean, the intention is yes at this
Oh,
moment in time.
well, he had a good day. I think he had a good round, didn't he?
Oh, he had a wonderful day. Yeah, absolutely wonderful day. Thoroughly enjoyed himself.
And then we've got one more project that we're currently working on, which I can't talk about now, um, but it should be launched in October. And when it does, we'll make some
Brilliant.
news about that. But coming back to you, Gaynor, most importantly, with your 10-year anniversary approaching, um, what about the next few years for you? What are your focus points, do you think, for LWO?
I think for me, as I said in the beginning, I started with no skills and no direction. Now I feel I have a clear direction. Um, Lymphatic health, self-care, raising the patient voice, and community engagement. Those are my focuses for as long as I can, you know, because getting older as I am, unfortunately, some days it gets very tiring, as you can imagine. But I mean, that's my main focus. Those things, um, I think simply to say because lymphedema exists, we exist.
And it's a strong tagline that you've embraced for many, many years. And
That's right.
it's absolutely true. And, thank you so much for everything you do, Gaynor. I've got a huge smile on my face because every time we work together, we're like a double act. I'd like to say hinge and bracket, but probably there's a more modern one that these youngsters will know. But yes, I do take
Yeah,
on board your point. We have got to look after our health as well, Gaynor, right? And when we
yeah,
need a break, we need to take a break because
that's right.
if not, we'll be stuck at our desk doing
Mm.
this for
Mm.
5 days a week, 7 hours a
There
day.
was one very important thing I learned when I had breast cancer and I was going through treatment. And it's something that luckily my family embraced. When I say I need to sleep, I need to sleep. Go away.
I shall have to put a sign on my door, my office door, sleeping in progress. Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that's a great idea. So I have got a big
yeah,
couch behind me so I can stretch out and put my legs up.
yeah.
Well, Gaynor, look, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. Thank you for sparing the time. I know you're very, very busy at the moment planning for your 10th anniversary. So congratulations
Mhm.
again with that. And I look forward to seeing you at the BLS conference in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, thank you, Matt, for the opportunity.
Oh,
Take care.
speak soon.